This podcast is produced by The Brand is Female. Tansei, hello, and welcome back to the Matriarch Movement podcast. I'm your host, Shayla Oulette Stonechild, and I'm very excited to have Ilona Verley here with me today. She is a drag artist and one of the season 1 contestants of Canada's Drag Race. She is the first Indigenous, Two-Spirit, and now Vancouver-based queen to appear on the show. We talk about what her experience was like filming Canada's Drag Race, what the audition process was like, what she hopes for 2021, what being Two-Spirit means to her, and also how she puts her looks together. Because I have to say, when I was filming this podcast, I show up with no makeup on, and here she is, just showing up like the queen that she is. I'm like, girl, you need to give me some tips. This week's episode of Matriarch Movement is brought to you by our partners at Louvre Design. Louvre is a socially responsible fashion retailer and manufacturer specializing in sustainable women's clothing, with all pieces made and designed right here in Canada. You know, I support women like it's my day job, and Louvre is 100% female-owned and female-led, which is an A+ in my books. Finding sustainable clothing that doesn't break the bank is literally not easy, but Louvre has set out to change that. Even better, you can be sure that everyone Louvre works with are getting fair wages, and we know how important it is to bridge the gender wage gap. All the clothing is as comfortable as your yoga gear, but chic enough to wear on your next Zoom call, with modern staples and playful prints that you'll literally want to wear every single day. Check out Louvre for yourself at louvredesign.com. That's Louve design.com, and get free shipping on your next order with the code ShaylaShipping, all one word, at checkout. And without further ado, Ilona Verley.
Thank you for having me. I'm Nlaka'pamux from Shkapa Band in Lytton, and I currently live in so-called Vancouver.
Sweet. How long have you been here for?
I've been back in Vancouver for about 2 years. I was living in Los Angeles for a bit, and then I got cast on Canada's Drag Race, and I packed up my 3 suitcases, headed home, moved in with mom for a little bit, and then the pandemic happened, and I was supposed to move back to LA, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get my own place here, stay around home for now, be around the family, and yeah, so I've been Canadian again.
I mean, you're Canadian. Where are you from originally?
So I was born on Vancouver Island in Nanaimo, and then I grew up between there and my reserve in Lytton. So I was really lucky that I got to grow up with my background, with my culture, my Indigenous family, as well as my dad's white family, who fuck them all, honestly. Yeah, so I had a pretty well-rounded upbringing, which I'm thankful for, because I know a lot of my Indigenous friends weren't as lucky to get to grow up around our community, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in a predominantly white community. And so, yeah, I can relate of like, I'm kind of jealous that you got to grow up with your community. And did you grow up then on the res? Because you said that you have your white side of your family and then your native side.
Yeah, so we would go to the res as often as we could. We'd spend weeks, we'd spend months here and there whenever we could, because we were over on Vancouver Island. So whenever we could get off of Vancouver Island, we were going to the res. So yeah, it was really a fun way to get to grow up, because even on the island, it's very naturey and foresty, and I grew up like climbing trees and fishing and going to the river and stuff. And now I feel like I'm just in the city so much. I'm like, I miss nature. Like Stanley Park's not doing it anymore.
No, you can literally go to Stanley Park so many times before you're like, okay, what else is there out there for me? But I mean,
Exactly.
making the transition to LA, I feel like that city is like nonstop. And for me,
Yeah.
I often feel overwhelmed and like there's so much energy. And so how is it moving from, Canada and then going and making the transition to LA?
It was everything I needed, honestly.
Mm.
I'm the kind of person, I have a lot of like mental illnesses I deal with, and like one of my biggest like traumas and triggers is based in Vancouver. And so
Mm.
I'm constantly going through these like little triggers all the time, just being in the city, as it is. And so getting to leave that and go somewhere where that trauma isn't and those triggers aren't, I felt like I was just able
Mm.
to live my life without all of these roadblocks in the way constantly. So that for me was honestly really helpful, having all that high energy, having all those distractions to get me out of my own head
Mm,
and force me to just live my life again and not worry about this or worry about that because it's back home and I've got to deal with it here, you know?
right,
And
right.
so that was a really good experience for me. And I feel like too, like with the hustle and bustle, is it helped me stay motivated because if you're not constantly busting out content in LA, it's really easy to, go under. And
Yeah.
here I find I get really lazy and I don't post or make content for a month or two at a time. But when I was in LA, it was like every day there was a photo shoot happening, there was something going on. So I like the high energy because I
Yeah.
was used to not the high energy. So it's like a good refresher. So when I came back here, I was able to appreciate having a little bit more low energy.
I was like literally just reading a comparison between Toronto and Vancouver and how when you move to Vancouver, exactly what you're saying, like you can get away with like going to the beach, going for some pho, just like not creating anything. You're just kind of off the grid. And then people from Toronto are like waiting on you to respond to your email and you just like take like a month to respond. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is so true.
Yeah.
That's cool though. So LA was like kind of a healing journey for you when you weren't always being activated by your triggers out in Vancouver. Um,
Absolutely.
and so when you are feeling, activated or triggered, what are ways that you come back into your power and back in your truth and your authenticity?
I think lately it's just been accepting that it's fine to give up. It's fine to just go, you know what, today's not my day. I need to just sleep
Mm.
this one off. Today is not my day. We're going to try again tomorrow. And I think a lot of people get so, oh, why are people calling me? This is so the paparazzi's everywhere. No, I'm kidding. But it's so easy to get upset with yourself for needing rest and needing a day off and going, oh, well, I had plans today and I'm mad that my plans aren't working out. But when you can just accept it that, hey, maybe your plans weren't supposed to work out because you need to rest, it's fine. And so for me,
Mhm.
it's been claiming my power in saying no, even to myself, just saying, nope, today's not going to work. It's fine. We're going to sleep it off. We're going to go back at it tomorrow because there's always another day. The sun keeps coming up.
Mhm.
And just kind of being fine with my mental health lately instead of trying to fight it, I think has been a really powerful experience for myself.
Yeah, I think like dismantling this idea of perfectionism, which is really rooted in like white supremacy, I have been learning. And as an Indigenous
Hmm.
person, I don't know if you can relate, but whenever I feel like opportunities present itself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to say yes because my parents were given these opportunities and I got to keep going. But then it's like you can only do so much from an empty cup. And so I love that you bring up saying no
Yeah.
and creating those boundaries.
Yeah,
Um,
you gotta put yourself first. Cause yeah, like what good are we gonna be for our communities if we can't be good for ourselves and we have nothing left to
mhm.
give, you know?
And speaking of communities, I know you are the first Two Spirit to go on Canada's Drag Race. And so, was there a lot of education and emotional labor that was attached to that? Because I feel like in that world, maybe they don't know a lot about Two Spirited people or our history here in Canada. And so, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was really, really cool, really amazing. You know, when I realized I was going to have this opportunity to be on TV, it was so important to me to be able to be the representation I wish I had when I was growing up. I never saw anyone queer and native on TV. I never saw anyone Two Spirit on TV. And it took me forever to figure out who I was and even what Two Spirit is, and that's me, you know?
Hmm.
And so it was
Hmm.
important that I wasn't selfish with my opportunity on Drag Race and that I used my platform to get people talking and to get people educated. It really has hurt me seeing a lot of Indigenous queens go on the American show and just do the white passing thing and maybe mention being
Mm.
Indigenous once and then just move on and, make jokes about being a white guy in a dress and whatever when it's like, no, you're
Mm.
native though. And what? So for me, it was important that I was like, I'm native, like, resin
Hmm.
cool, like being native dope,
Yeah,
like, um,
exactly.
so I felt like a bit of a broken record, but I was really conscious of the editing process. And I was like, no matter how much they edit me, they're gonna get the Indigenous Two Spirit line in there once or twice. Um, but yeah, it was scary going into it because I had lived my life for so long just being me and just surviving and then realizing, okay, I'm
Mhm.
about to be a public figure, I'm about to have a platform, and I want to make a difference and I want to be political, but I want to do it properly. So big shout out to
Mm.
my cousin Jade, who actually sat me down and really got me up to speed with a lot of education and things to go into the experience prepared to be political and embark on my
Mm-hmm.
journey into being someone who's involved in the public eye and in politics and using my voice as an Indigenous person. So there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of learning, and I'm still learning all the time. And sometimes I find I get a little scared to say certain things because I might not know the correct dictionary terminology. But I think as long as we're using our voice and we're holding space, that's honestly the most important thing we can do. And if we're still
Mm-hmm.
learning, we're still learning. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I love that you bring that up because I feel like there is a lot of pressure on not only ourselves as individuals when we're put in these public positions, but on being accountable to our communities and also how we articulate ourselves. And so I'm curious, what is your thought process before partnering up with someone, or maybe before partnering up with a brand or working with someone if they don't know a lot about Indigenous people? Like, what process do you go through yourself to make sure it's aligned on both levels?
I love that. Yeah, obviously, I've got a big mouth. I am not scared to get a little rude and aggressive because who has ever been heard whispering, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, I am political and I will say things. Sometimes people don't like the way I say it, and that's not my fucking problem, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
with brands, it's a big deal for me when I'm signing any contracts that they're not having little clauses in there that I have to represent their morals because I have my own morals, and that's more important
Mm,
to me than any dollar amount, any paycheck. I'd rather
mhm,
be homeless with my freedom of speech and my voice than have some money and have a company telling me how to act online. That to me is always a
mhm.
big deal. And I actually recently just signed a contract where I had to tell them, you got to change this, you got to change that. If you want to work
Yeah.
with me, you need to understand I am political and I'm mouthy. And that's part of who I am. I'm not just a pretty face. I'm not just a drag artist. I
Mhm,
am a trans person. I'm a two spirit person. I'm an Indigenous person. And those communities need a lot of vocalization on our important topics. And I'm not going to be
mhm.
shutting up anytime soon.
Well, and I guess it goes like you only want to work with people that are behind you in your own integrity. And I love that you bring up not taking the dollar bill just because it's offering, a paycheck. You're actually like, is this actually aligned with me and what I stand for? I'm curious to
Mhm.
know more about the audition process that went into Canada's Drag Race and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, that was real crazy. I auditioned for season 11 back in the day as like a joke, just because I have my American citizenship too. So I was like being funny and thought that was a thing. And then I seriously auditioned for season 12. And I had a very good friend who actually gave me a bunch of money as investment to help me make my tape, get some outfits together, and really like elevate my drag, which I'm very thankful for because I was able to present a beautiful audition tape. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
I did not get on season 12, which I find honestly worked out in the wash for me because when Canada's Drag Race got announced, I was like, oh, this makes more sense for me to do this because
Mm.
I can be more vocal about indigeneity and have it make more sense. Because when I was living in the US, everyone's like, what's an Indigenous person? What's a two spirit? Like, no one knew
Mhm.
anything about that. Whereas in Canada, at least people in Canada, even if sometimes it's slacktivism or fake wokeness, they know about Indigenous people and they know that
They
we're a big
do.
backbone in this country. And so it was
Totally.
important to me that I was going to be able to get to talk to an audience that could understand and know where I'm coming from. But yeah, essentially, when Canada's Drag Race was announced, I recycled my season 12 edition tape for Canada's Drag Race. So I had this beautiful tape already done, and I was
Nice.
like, okay, it's going to be fine. And I had to film a couple new little things. And yeah, it was one by one, I started getting phone calls for it, and I was like, okay, it's like happening, it's happening.
Awesome.
And the day I got the final call, I almost passed out. I was just like, ah!
That must have been so exciting. Like you had literally worked for it, having gone through auditioning twice. I feel like, yeah,
Yeah,
usually sometimes the universe presents it when you are ready. And I feel like you were meant for
it's
Canada's Drag Race because
so
that aligns
true. Yeah,
way more. How was
yeah.
the actual filming and like being, I don't know, would you call it being on set, or like how did the filming of the season go? Like what was that process like for you?
It was really cool. I would say honestly, like the filming aspect and filming the show was the best part for me. Like I got so close with all the other girls on the season, and we're all still like such good friends. And when you go through an experience like that, it's very hard and draining, and a lot of people don't
Mhm.
experience it. It's so crazy. And So those people you experience it with are people that go through the exact same thing, and you're going to get close to them no matter what. And it's funny, a lot of the people I didn't really connect with while we were filming, I'm the closest to now, which is
That's
kind of funny when
interesting.
you get to know each other again outside the competitive setting. And you're like, oh,
Hmm.
you're actually cool when you're not trying to send me home.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine there's like there it would be a lot for me to handle being around that much energy and then also having to perform and then putting your looks together. What is the plan out process for making a look happen? Because I know your aesthetic is like pastel colors, you're always looking fire, and I'm just like, how do you
Thank
plan it
you.
out?
Generally for me, I'll like come up with a concept or a silhouette and just decide like what color it feels like to me. A lot of my looks are inspired by songs or by music. And
Mm.
when I listen to a song, I feel a color, and so that's kind of how I kind of pull my looks is like kind of through
Sweet.
music or lyrics and things like that. So aesthetically, like I'm very well known because of my pastel color scheme, but I can do
Mhm.
a scary look, I can do like a glamorous look, I can do just like a going to the beach look, and it still always looks like me because I just do
Mm.
colors and my aesthetic is so fluctuative within that, which I think is something that makes me unique because there's a lot of girls who have a strong aesthetic, but it's just one thing. So I can at least stretch
Mhm.
my aesthetic a little more, which is kind of been a saving grace. But yeah, going on Drag Race, I wanted to try to like make sure I could show them that I could do things like wear dark blue denim and brown hair and step outside my comfort box. And I wish I didn't do that because I'm so solid in who I am. I should have just stuck
Oh,
to it.
you
And
should you didn't want
that's
to adapt
that,
too
that's my
much?
advice to anyone.
No?
Don't show versatility. If you know who you are, you know who you are. That's all you need.
Well, that one photo that you have on Instagram with a red handprint bringing awareness to MMIW, I feel like that image, not only were you creating a look and aesthetic, but you were telling a story that a lot of Indigenous people know and relate to. And so, why was that so important for you to be, for that message to be seen in mainstream media on this show?
Absolutely. So for me, once again, like I said, I just wanted to be proud to spirit, proud Indigenous fam, and like let them have it. And a lot of people will forget words or they won't listen to words, but they always remember
Mm,
imagery and they always remember a photo. And for me, when I did that as my finale look, I wanted to give a visual representation of beautiful aspects of femme Indigenous people in our communities and things that represent us as female identifying or two spirit Indigenous people. So
mm-hmm,
that's why there's a little bit of fancy ribbon on the sleeves, there's a bit of jingles on the jacket and stuff. I wanted to include all these different aspects of femme Indigenous people that just told that story of femininity. And then with the red handprint,
mm-hmm,
I walked out with it over my mouth and then took it away to say that we're reclaiming our power. We're not just going to keep going missing. We're going to put our fucking foot down and we're going to look for our women. We're going to
mm-hmm.
look for our two spirits. And it's not something we could just sweep under the rug anymore. So for me, that was important to put together a visual because it gets people talking, it more than
Yeah.
a sentence or a word or something. So I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to do something as powerful as that and really utilize my time on TV to do something important.
Yeah, no, I definitely I got chills when you were just explaining it. You can feel the power in not only
Thank
the
you.
imagery, but the story, but your voice and how much it means to you. And so my question for you would be like, what is your advice for maybe a two-spirit person that hasn't come out yet, or maybe is going through this phase of wanting to take up space, but maybe doesn't know how or where to begin?
I would say the best thing you can do is just be honest with yourself. Like, you don't have to tell everyone in your life that you're two spirit or you're trans or whatever. If
Mm,
you know that, you know that. Like, if you can
mm-hmm,
be honest with yourself and look in the mirror and say, this is who I am, you don't need to go get double D's. You don't need to go do any physical transitions. If you know who you are, you know who you are. You'll get to
mm,
where you need to be eventually. And that's the biggest thing I've been learning. The last year, I've been telling all my friends and everyone that I view myself as a trans woman and I'm trans. Have I
mm-hmm,
done anything about it? No. Am I about to start doing something
mm,
about it? Yes, because we need time to process our own journeys and our own learning experiences. And I
mm.
think a lot of times people with social media expect us to have something all figured out if we start talking about it. But that's not true. We start talking about things
Seriously.
because we're learning and we want to connect with other people who are going through the same thing to help inform our choices and our moves and our self
Mhm.
discovery. And so I would say just if you can look in the mirror and you know who you are, you're on the right path, you're on
Mhm.
the right way to go. And yeah, just start having those conversations when you're comfortable. Don't rush it.
I love that. It's like always a journey of evolution. And you're right, none of us know all the answers to everything. Thank you, hi to our friends at Louvre Design for supporting this episode. As a yoga teacher and a spiritual revolution activist, my whole being is rooted in wellness, but not just of the body and spirit. Protecting Indigenous culture means protecting the land we belong to. The fashion industry is one of the most important sources of waste on our planet, but Louvre has set out to prove that sustainable fashion can be the norm. Protecting the planet, the people, and the animals are values most important to Louvre, and I stand firmly behind them. 25% of the pieces are actually made with upcycled fabrics, and the remainder of the fabrics are made with renewable materials like organic cotton, bamboo, modal, and tencel. This is the comfy modern brand you can be proud to wear. Don't forget to visit louvedesign.com, that's L-O-U-V-E design.com, and get free shipping on your next order with the code SHAYLAShipping, all one word, at checkout. Moving forward, talking about your own journey, what do you hope for your future and for the rest of 2021? Because I know this pandemic has definitely put a damper in all of our plans.
Yeah. Oh, sis, you know that. I'm excited to just get back to a real life without having to be scared of doing this or doing that, just being able to live again truly, fully, freely. I have started to open up this past week about starting my transition physically finally. I'm going
Mm,
to start taking hormones. I'm going to start doing a lot more to just become the person I want to be because I've been sitting around waiting, going, oh, at least I know who I am. But what am I waiting
mm,
for? I feel like in my head, I was like waiting till I was financially stable. But if I died next
mm.
week, what's the point of waiting for that? Like, just go for it now. So I'm just living my life with more of that focus of just do things, don't wait, just do them now. Because if you wait to do something properly, you might not get to do it at all. If you do it bad, then at least you did it.
That's true. Sometimes we're like the worst critics of just we hold ourselves back and we really limit ourselves from all overthinking and these worries that and these anxieties that probably never even happen. They're just like our
Yeah,
own internal world working against us. And
absolutely.
and so when you do get like anxiety and maybe like I know you mentioned at the beginning that there was triggers for you in Vancouver, what do you do when maybe you are feeling anxious or overworked or maybe you just need that extra support? What do you do and maybe who do you look for?
Honestly, I just kind of check out because I can talk to a million people about what I'm going through, but unless I can talk to myself, it's not going to change anything. So a lot of
Mhm.
times I'll just have a day of rest where I do a lot of reflecting and I talk to myself out loud because I find a lot of times when we are just going through our thoughts in our head, it's easy to let our thoughts scare us and consume us. But when we actually vocalize it and you're actually
Mm.
hearing it in your ears, it helps you be able to actually grab it because then it's like an actual thing that's out in the universe. It's not just in your head. So I always walk through what I'm going through. I'm like, okay, why am I
Mm.
not wanting to leave the house today? I don't want to leave the
Mhm.
house today because of this. And then it's like, okay, that's fine. Tomorrow I'm going to leave the house because that thing is getting its power today, but it doesn't get that power tomorrow. So having those
Mm.
conversations and just making choices and stuff, I think is like a big part for me of overcoming my like mental health
Mhm.
struggles is just acknowledging them and be like, okay, have your moment, but you don't get to take over. You're gonna have your moment today, and
Mhm.
tomorrow we're gonna put you away. So
Y
just.
I I love that you speak it out in existence, like, you literally just say it and vocalize it. That's kind of what I do for some of my manifestations and, like, when I'm working towards my goals, and so I'm curious to know, like, did you manifest being on Canada's Drag Race? Like, what was your do you have a manifestation process? Do you have a visualization process? And what does that look like?
I mean, I feel like you hear this from a lot of people that say like they just knew that they were gonna make it when they were young. And for me, I always knew that I wanted to be successful and famous. I always knew I saw that for myself. And as egotistic as it might be, I was working towards it. And you always hear people say your time will come when it's supposed to come. And I would always sit around just be
Mhm.
like, when is it my time? I want my time. And so eventually one day I got it and I got my time. And to be completely honest, now that I've had my time, I'm like, wasn't all that I thought it was gonna be. So
Mm.
but at least I can say that I got this dream to come true. And I think that's the biggest
Mm-hmm.
thing is I went through this period of kind of like, okay, well, now my biggest dreams came true. What's next? And
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of almost like mourning the loss
Mm-hmm.
of your motivation in life, if that makes sense. And
That
so,
makes sense.
yeah, because for me, Drag Race was like the end all be all. And I was like, okay, now I'm here, but also the pandemic's here. So I'm not touring. I'm not getting the Drag Race experience. Okay, it's not as cute as I thought it was going to be. Am I going to sit here and be sad about it, or am I just going to fucking move on? And I'm choosing to move on, find the next dream,
Yeah.
find the next goal, and work towards it. But as far as manifesting, I always just trust the universe. And I know that in doing that, the universe and the creator is going to look out for me and put me where I need to go. And even when I'm
Mm,
having like a bad time or get involved in something horrible, I'm like, you know what? I'm supposed to be here. It's a learning
yeah,
experience that's going to
it
help me
is.
get to the next thing that I actually want to be involved in.
Yeah, there's always so many lessons in our failures. And I love that you got your goal and then you got it. And then you're like, oh, this is it. That's literally what just happened to me this year. Like, I had this because I grew up like pretty poor. I had this image in my mind that I needed X amount of dollars to be happy. And then when I got the paycheck, I was like, oh, well, now what do I do? Like, I was literally
Yeah.
sitting on my couch, just like staring at the wall. And I'm like, this is not as exciting as I thought it was going to be. Like, I'm not gonna go blow
Yeah.
all this. Like, yeah, it's just funny how our minds sometimes perceive something way better than when it actually happens. But
Exactly. It's so
what
true.
right? What was one of your most favorite experiences that you had? I think throughout your career, it doesn't have to be just Canada's Drag Race, but like, what is one of the most rememberable experiences you have had thus far?
I would say just being able to get to live the fantasy that you get to live when you are a drag artist and you're working in nightlife. You walk right up to the front of the line and you smile and you say, I'm late, and they let you in. You don't wait in line,
Mm.
you don't pay for drinks. You live that fantasy of a celebrity. And that's why I think a lot of drag queens become famous because we're already experiencing kind of the famous life and we're like, okay, we want more. But I
Mm.
would say I'm just grateful that I have been able to do an art form that has got to give me so many experiences. I've got to go to Australia with my drag. I got to move to LA with my
Sweet.
drag. I got to go on TV with my drag and just do something cool with my art. Like growing up,
Mhm.
whenever I would dress up or do makeup, my family would judge me and be like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna make money off this one day. I'm gonna be successful one day." And then when my grandma saw me on the Marilyn Dennis show after Drag Race, she phoned me up. She was so shook, she couldn't believe it. I was like, "I told you, Grandma.
That's
I told you that
awesome.
dressing up would get
I
me somewhere."
literally there you are. That's amazing. How was it perceived with your family and your friends? Have they always been supportive of this journey that you're on, or was it something that was a process in itself?
When I first started doing drag, my makeup was real horrible. I was not pretty. I had no idea what I was doing. And my friends were all very patient with me, being like, "You're fucking ugly, like get it together." And I was like, "I'm trying." So there was like that weird rough patch when I was trying to get into it and I wasn't quite there. But once I started getting good at everything, my friends were living, they were loving the perks of cutting the lines and going to shows and this, that, and the next thing. And that was great. And then my mom, she was a little like iffy about it at first, but then when she realized like how much fun I was having with it and how creative
Mm,
it is as and it isn't just a sexual thing or this thing, it's like so much bigger than just one thing. It is an art form.
mhm.
She really got on board with it and now she's like my biggest fan. She comes to all my shows that she can come to and she has all of my photos on her phone and she's constantly showing people them. And my mom loves it. My mom's always been my number one supporter with everything. And I think a lot of times because she did grow up in a more like sheltered, reserved kind of
Mhm.
background, that it's just unlearning those behaviors. It's not like she
Mhm.
was homophobic, she just didn't know about queer culture. So it's just kind of,
Totally.
updating the mindset. My grandma and
Totally.
grandpa kind of hated it at first. They were not really a big fan of it. But now that I am making money, I'm on TV, they love it. They think it's so cute. So
That's
classic grandparents.
That's awesome that we're all, no matter how old we are always on a journey of unlearning and just accepting and
Yes.
evolving as people. Okay,
Mm.
I need some tips on how to do my makeup. As you can see, I am not wearing any. So, like, the fact that you had to learn, where did you learn?
It's, the thing about learning makeup is just you can watch as many tutorials as you want to learn the technique, but actually getting makeup to look good on your face is just an effort of trial and error because everyone's faces are different. Contour is going to go a
Mm-hmm.
little higher or lower on every face. And so it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
just like feeling out your face, like, okay, here's the
Mm-hmm.
bone. Okay, the shadow goes under the bone. It's like things like that. It's just learning your face, learning what looks
Mm-hmm.
good on your face. I used to draw my lips out really, really far because I wanted them to be
Mm.
big, but I realized I didn't need to do that. I just needed to draw them like outward, like wider instead of far. So I've gone through my like clowny lip phase, and I think we're finally at like a good place with it. But it's just learning what looks good on you specifically, really.
I definitely I overdraw my lips. That's like my favorite thing to do right now, just to like put them out there.
Heck
What
yeah.
is what is one of your favorite looks that you have done thus far?
Oh, okay. You know, I'm not gonna lie, like lately a lot of times my makeup is very like the same complexion, same brows, same lips, same eyes, just different colors. Like I've been kind of experimenting with different things lately, but my favorite makeups to do are the ones when I paint my skin like a fun color, like purple or blue or something,
Mm.
because it really challenges you to like see where that highlight goes or that contour goes. And like I like covering my tattoos when I do the colored skin, and I feel like
Mm.
it's a challenge because with this makeup, I can sit down and do this in like 30 minutes, and I know how to do it. I know it's gonna be great. But when I push myself to do something really creative, like a colored, fun skin thing, it's like, okay, we gotta cover tattoos, we gotta make sure that all of it's even and it's not, so it's I like the challenging things.
The
As
challenging
much as I
ones?
don't do them often, the challenging ones are fun.
Well, speaking of challenges, that was gonna be my next question is like, what was one of your biggest challenges, filming Canada's Drag Race?
Oh, okay. I would say honestly just being away from my mom and my cat and
Mm.
not getting to call home because when you're there you get no TV, no radio, no phone, no electronics, nothing. You're in your hotel room when you're not filming. You're
Mm.
away from your support network, and I would say for me that was the biggest thing is like not being able to call my mom and be like, "Oh my god, today this happened," or "I miss you," or whatever. And I actually have where is it? It's right here. Okay, I have this little rainbow poodle
Aw.
TY that my mom got me, and so she got me this when I was going to film Drag Race. So every night I would sleep with it and I would talk to it like it was her. I'd be like, "Good night, mom. Like I missed you." And so this poodle got me through Drag Race. I'm
Got you
not
through
even
it.
kidding.
How
But yeah.
how long was the actual filming process?
So we were gone for about a month to film. Yeah, about a month.
About a
Yeah.
month. Okay, so it happened fairly quickly then.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a pretty quick turnaround. A TV week, which is one episode, is filmed in 2 days.
wow. Wow, 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 wow. And
Yeah.
okay, I'm curious to know, because I like influencing for Indigenous people and for anyone is obviously very new. Do you have a team that helps you out? Like, are you signed with an agency or a manager? And how did you find them? Or do you just do everything alone?
Um, I just do everything myself, which
Oh,
I
sweet.
think has kind of been like a downfall for me because I feel
Mm,
like I kind of really got in my head. Like when we
mm-hmm,
found out that our season was coming out during the pandemic, we
mm-hmm,
all went through this really rough patch of like, okay, we're not going to get to do DragCon, we're not going to get to tour, we're not going to get
mm,
to do shows, we're not going to get to meet the fans. Like, and it was really hard accepting that this experience we thought we were going to get wasn't going to
mm-hmm,
happen. We weren't going to make
mm-hmm.
any money back. Like, I spent so much money on Drag Race thinking I was going to make it all back in like a week or two.
Right.
Wasn't happening. Still hasn't happened. So it was just accepting that kind of loss threw me into a really depressive space where I didn't
Mm,
bother looking for a manager. I didn't bother looking for a team.
mm,
I was like, whatever happens, happens. Like, blah, 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 blah.
mhm.
So I've gotten some amazing opportunities just from being myself and having my email in my bio, which is great.
Yeah.
But sometimes I get really overwhelmed and I like don't look at my email for like a week, which obviously, if I had a team or a manager to do that for me, I would miss out on less things because.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I feel like doing it myself, as much as it kind of seems like I missed out on that mark, I feel like it happened for a reason. And I haven't
Mm-hmm.
really figured the reason out yet, but one of these days I'm
We're
gonna look back
learning.
and be like, sure.
Well, I'm hesitant too because you never really know. For me, I'm like, hey, am I doing this just for again coming back to the money thing, or am I doing this because my heart is in it? And sometimes I feel like, yeah, when you're working with an agent, you also need to be in alignment, and you have to be on the same page, I guess you could say. And speaking
Yeah.
of partnerships, when you are content creating, I know your photos on Instagram look mint and crisp. And so, how do you make that happen?
Okay, so I actually have shot probably 80% of my Instagram content myself,
Wow.
with my camera, my tripod. That was one really like fierce thing that happened in high school is my mom got a payout, and so she got me a really nice camera because she knew I wanted to go to makeup
Sweet.
school, and that is the same camera I have to this day, and it shoots all that content. Whenever I'm not shooting it on self timer, I'm like paying my friends to help me. I'm like, I'll buy you dinner if you come shoot this look for me at the park. Like, haha. So a lot of it I just do myself, and I learned editing and stuff. When I went to makeup school, we had like a digital art unit that really set
Mm,
me up good for that. And then I'd say the other 20% of my photos are done by my friend Fernando, who is an
sweet.
incredible photographer. He shot the photos for Vogue, of my finale look from Drag Race, the MMIW inspired one. And he is an
Mm-hmm.
amazing photographer. He's the only person I've ever trusted to shoot me other than myself because I'm very
Yeah.
specific with my angles and my lighting.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
why I was
he's amazing.
curious. Like, you need to, again, like, I feel like shoots are pretty intimate, and I use my brother. My brother definitely has helped me shoot some content. I have a few questions from actually my followers. This one, Beth, she's asking, which Indigenous drag queen should we be supporting?
Oh yes. Okay, this is amazing. My drag aunt Jaylene Time, who is here in Vancouver, she is an incredible resource for indigeneity and just constantly speaking on important topics and just being herself.
Mm,
She is a trans woman who has inspired me from day one. She is the person that taught me what being two spirit was and helped me realize that that was
mm,
that thing inside myself I was missing.
mhm.
I met her through Blanche McDonald when I started going to makeup school, and she's been a huge part of my life ever since. Yeah, Jaylene Time, incredible, love her.
Sweet.
Um, I feel like I'm probably gonna mispronounce this, but Feather Talia or Feather Talia, she's amazing as well. I love her because she's a bigger girl who is just
Mm.
doing the damn thing. Shelazon is another amazing Indigenous artist from, I believe, Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan?
And she's really big on TikTok. She's like some of the
Mm.
stuff I see her doing, I'm just like, girl, how do you have that energy? And she's also going to school full time. So, yeah, there's a lot of amazing drag artists out there who are Indigenous who are just killing it right now and really just claiming some super important space. On Drag Race, the Spain one that just came out, Inti is an Indigenous performer. She's
Mm.
on there. Repping for Indigenous people. Jojo Zaho was just on the Drag Race Down Under cast. She's Indigenous. So we're seeing a lot more Indigenous
Sick.
people
Yes.
get their spotlights on Drag Race, which is just making me super, super happy.
That's amazing. I will definitely post their links in the description of this podcast. Another question from Taryn: was the casting and producer team of Canada's Drag Race aware of Two Spirit, or did you have to teach some people?
Yeah, actually, they were all really educated on the
Oh
topic.
wow.
And on set, what I loved is all of the PAs. We called them Queen's Care. So whenever we needed anything, we would just be like, Queen's Care! And they'd come running to help us. Love them, love them. But they all knew my pronouns, they all knew my background. Like, they made sure going into it that everyone on the team and the staff knew who we were and what our backgrounds were, which
Mm.
I really like the sensitivity that went into that from like a production standpoint. Um, I know this year for season two, it's a completely different team, so it's probably gonna be garbage. No, I'm kidding. It's gonna probably be different, but you know, it's fine.
Well, I think that's amazing that they knew what it meant going in because I feel like I spend a lot of time when you are cast, not only are you going in as you and yourself, but you are like representing and educating people on Indigenous history and these terms. And it's just like a whole nother layer of emotional labor. So that's awesome that you're
Yeah.
gonna have to do a lot of that. How would you define Two Spirit in your own words?
To me, I would say it's so much more than just necessarily a gender marker or gender expression. It's a spirituality thing, you know. It's something so deep within you that it's not just embracing your masculine and feminine. It's about embracing your emotions, embracing your spirituality, being
Mm,
able to vocalize those things to the world we live in, and really communicate yourself to both sides of those spectrums and not just
mm-hmm,
be locked in one mindset, to really be able to open your mind and be connected to all avenues of our communities.
mm.
To me, I think that is the best description I could give of Two Spirit right now. I feel like it's always kind of
Yeah.
changing as we learn, but for me, that's what I would say today.
It's like decolonizing our perception of gender and the binaries itself. Like Two
Exactly. Yeah,
Spirit,
that
I
shit
love
never
how
even used to exist.
right? I
Like, get it out of here.
know. Totally. Um, how can people support your work moving forward, and what are you looking forward to for the rest of 2021?
Oh, I love that. If you want to support me, you can follow me on Instagram, Ilona Verley. Engage with my content, comment, like whatever. I love getting to connect with people and comment. I have my messages off a lot of the times just because I'm like really bad with my mental health dealing with hate. So like that way I just don't
Mm-hmm.
see no hate. It's out of here. But I always read my comments. I always connect with people in my comment section, and that's the best way to support me. I would say is just let me know you like what I'm doing because it'll help me keep going.
I
And
love that
looking
you
forward to for the rest of 2021, I would say just having a really cute summer as restrictions are easing, getting able to
Mhm.
just get back to some normalcy.
Yeah, same. I'm waiting to be able to dance in community and be together again. And the question I always end on is, what is your sign? I'm curious, your horoscope sign.
Okay, I am an Aries, which is
Ah.
super telling of me as a person. I actually have a little Aries symbol tattoo on my forehead, but the makeup kind of covers it. Yeah, I'm an Aries in every meaning of the word for sure.
Sweet. Yeah, Aries, I can feel that, the fire element.
Yeah, very that. What's your sign?
I'm the last sign, so Pisces, water.
Okay,
Water sign.
okay, yes.
Yeah.
My best friend is a Pisces. Smart,
Oh,
intelligent, witty. We
yeah,
loves it.
intuitive.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your time. And I look forward to following you on the gram. Looking forward to seeing the fire continuously come out.
Heck yeah! Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I would love your feedback. Follow me on Instagram at Shayla0H, at matriarch.movement. And don't forget to subscribe on the pod platform of your choice and review and rate where possible. I'll be back in a week. Hi. Thank you so much for tuning in.